Well, our next guest, I don't think he ever gets tired of seeing one of his former quarterbacks have the success that he's having here in Kansas City. Adam Cook is the former high school football coach for Patrick Mahomes. He's joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. Adam, good morning. Thanks for being here, my friend. We appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm doing great, Pete. Thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure, and I always look forward to doing these yearly with you, man. You know, each year it's a different storyline. Seems like it's a totally different Kansas City team, but it's been fun to watch them.
Well, what about you? I mean, you know, we do get a chance to talk to you. It feels like every year around this time I want to bring you on the show. How are you seeing Patrick as he approaches 30? He's now a father of 3, of course. How are you seeing him change over the years as a player, as a man, and how much of this did you see in him when he was young?
You know, you saw a lot of this in Patrick when he was young. You know, one of the things I've always talked about is just his leadership, his ability to lead. I think he continues to grow. I think every year when the locker room changes and they bring new guys in, and there's been so many changes over just this past season. I think you see his leadership in that when they get new guys in. I think he's doing whatever he has to do to win right now. You know, he's not, you know, his play's different this year than it was last year. Defense is playing so much better, and I think he's done a great job of adapting to that. I think that with the 3 kids and them getting older now, you know, people are starting to see him a little bit more at the games, and, you know, Brittany does a good job of you know, posting out there where people can see. You get to see what kind of a father, what kind of a parent he is, watching, you know, Netflix series last year with quarterback. And so, but always knew that Patrick was going to be a great dad, great father, and great leader and great quarterback.
Was there a moment for you when you were coaching him at White House down there in Texas when you said, you know, I think this guy's special. I think there could be something here that could be big time. Was there one moment that stood out to you coaching him in high school?
You know, there was so many moments, so it's so hard to say because I can name, you know, 15 different plays of like, how in the world did he do that? But, you know, Patrick was someone that even before he got to the high school level, coaches were talking about him. People in the community, you always heard about, you know, this kid Mahomes, Pat Mahomes' son's coming, you know, going to be here at White House. And so you kind of knew that. But then just watching him interact with other people, his teachers, the way that he led in the schoolhouse, you could easily see that there. And then really just watching him the first night that he played quarterback, I've told that story before where, you know, it's raining, you know, in that game, and him and his best friend Ryan Cheatham were kind of splitting time. That night was when you saw, okay, this kid could be really special. So if I said there was one point at the quarterback position, Pete, it would have been that first game against Sulphur Springs in the rain and just what he was able to do out there on the field that night.
All right, well, what about this? What was the moment you realized that Patrick and Brittany being high school sweethearts were going to last? How about that, Adam Cook?
Hey, that's a great question. Maybe when you watch, you know, kids date. I married my high school sweetheart, Pete. So we grew up a mile apart. And she is my rock. And so, you know, watching them from afar, you always look at those years when they get to college. Brittany's playing, you know, soccer at UT Tyler, and then Pat's off at Texas Tech. And if they're able to make it through that time, then you feel like, hey, they're going to make it, you know, through this and all. But, yeah, they kind of started that when, I guess, when Patrick was a junior, I believe, is when they started dating. And, yeah, I always appreciate and love to see those high school sweethearts make it.
Yeah. And just like me, he was, you know, I think she's a year older, right? So he was cougar chasing.
She is. I actually had Brittany in class. So Brittany was when she was a freshman, she was in my pre-AP algebra class. So Brittany's a very smart young lady. And, yeah, so yes, sir, I had Brittany in class.
That's great. That's great. Now, have you been up to a game this year yet, Adam Cook?
I have not. I've been so busy the last 2 years with my new kind of business venture. I've been all over the place, but I have not missed a game on TV and have watched all of them, but I haven't had a chance to go up and watch this year. It's been a very different year, you know, Pete, watching them. I know that, again, you know, I'm kind of disconnected from the whole Kansas City, you know, but it's just a totally different team. Each year's a new story, but they still find ways to win, and they are fun to watch.
Absolutely. Adam Cook is the high school football coach down at White House for Patrick Mahomes. And you're no longer coaching high school ball, right?
That is correct. No
okay.
longer coaching ball, no problem.
So when you look back on your time coaching high school football, and, you know, Patrick, listen, he had success. He goes to Texas Tech, and I would argue, at least as a team, they didn't have that success based on his individual talent. Now, the problem is they never put a defense on the field at Texas Tech. It wasn't really a scoring issue. It was a defense issue. But how do you think those years of really not winning at a high level prepare him for the NFL? Because you see a lot of guys who have big-time success in college, they win a lot, they flame out in the NFL. Is there something to be said to that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, we could talk about a lot of these number one quarterback picks and where are they now. I think that it did. I think just Patrick's love for the game, that's a big part of it, just who he is. It's built into his DNA. But I definitely think that that's kept him hungry, and then to watch him to continue to do that and be hungry each and every year, and not get satisfied with where you're at successfully. But, yeah, I definitely feel like, some of that not being recruited heavily, as a high school quarterback. I think that was a big part that drove him. But, definitely think that that's something that's driven him.
Why do you think it is that despite all the talent, he was only, I think, a 3-star prospect out of 5 coming out of high school?
Yeah, I may have said that on this, with you again, and I apologize if I'm saying it again. Everybody's like, hey, you said that last time, and I'll say it again next year if you ask me the same question. Whoever that guy was with Rivals or whatever it is that did those stars, he needs to be fired. I don't know how they do that. Kids, I would have college coaches, Pete, that would come in and we would talk about different things. And, University of Texas for a long time was the number one recruited, got the number one recruits. They got all these 5-star guys. I think it was Manny Diaz actually that was telling me this. And, he said a kid goes in the offseason and runs around a cone pretty fast. He's not playing the game of football at all. And then all of a sudden he's got all these stars, And so really how they do that, who's rating them, it's hard to measure those intangibles with what Patrick has. But again, I think the fact that he only played quarterback 2 years, that probably played a factor into it. That he was playing baseball, during the summers a lot of time and wasn't out doing all of the different camps and stuff like that. And, just kind of got under the radar like some of them often do.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know that baseball was obviously something that I think he played. Did he play a year at Texas Tech, or he was out there with the team for a year and then he gave it up? But he was serious about the whole baseball deal because, of course, his old man played in the pros.
That's right. And I believe that was one of the reasons why he liked, the idea of going to Texas Tech, because they were going to allow him to do that. I think that once he got in there and he started seeing, hey, if I'm going to be the starting quarterback here, it's going to require a little bit more from me than, some of there was another receiver, I believe, or maybe he was a DB that played there. I don't remember his name at Texas Tech, and he was playing both football and baseball. A little bit easier in those positions. When you're the quarterback, I think he found that out, and he was like, hey, I got to go this route. And, I say Patrick could have played any sport that he wanted to. When he was in high school, his favorite sport probably, especially junior high, coming up early high school years, was actually basketball. I figured you'd probably say something now about these penalties everybody's talking about. Bill Cowher mentioned something the other day. He said Patrick's like a possum out there. I think it's basketball whenever he's learned how to take a charge, and again, that's what makes Patrick so great. He played so many different sports, a great competitor, and just, wants to win.
Well, I think the message there, too, and you see this, I'm sure you saw it a lot during your coaching days down there in Texas. These parents, they want their kids at 8 years old to focus on one sport. It's like, man, when you got guys like Patrick Mahomes playing 3 sports through high school, and you see that with a lot of the top pros out there, they're just having fun. They're playing multiple sports, and in the end, all this stuff is going to work out well if you are that elite. But you got parents now that say at 8 years old, my kid's only doing one sport, and that just seems very short-sighted.
It does, and I think we could talk about every single sport individually. I know Bobby Knight used to talk about the guys that just play basketball and play in AAU all the time. They're playing all these games in these tournaments, and so many games that they start losing these games. And so they get to a point where they're okay with losing because they're playing so many games. They go through a weekend, they're playing 12 games, and I think you lose that competitive edge. And I think just playing those certain sports when those seasons are in, there's a lot to be said about that. And again, Patrick's got a lot of God-given ability. Just because somebody decides to play all 3 sports doesn't mean that. But they need to be kids, need to have fun, need to learn how to compete, how to be a great teammate, and to be a great leader, and because the majority of the kids aren't going to get to go play professionally anyway, but they're going to be leading our nation in other ways.
Adam Cook, let us know when you're up in town for a game. We appreciate it, my friend.
I will do that, Pete. Again, thank you so much for calling me, man. I look forward to these every year, and go Chiefs.
There you go. Adam Cook, great to have him on KCMO. We got to get him back on more often. Maybe we do him before the season starts because he's just a great guest, awesome insight, and a really good guy. We appreciate him coming on. We got to get him in studio when he's up here for a game next.